She stood on stage, tore my childhood photo in half, and said I'd disappeared. Seconds later, the LED screen behind her flickered. And there I was. Not in the background. In full frame. With receipts. Hi, I'm Rowan. For years, I sat at the edge of family portraits, cropped, silenced, edited out. But when they turned my story into a stage prop, I turned the stage into a screen. And played the truth they thought I'd never tell. Have you ever been erased by people who called it love? What would you do if your sister humiliated you at her wedding? On purpose. Let's rewind to the moment she smiled for the camera, and I smiled back, with the USB that would burn it all down. Smile for the camera, sis. Wouldn't want to ruin the aesthetic. Charleston, South Carolina. The Madison Manor Ballroom shimmered like something out of a bridal editorial. Gold-trimmed chandeliers, crystal flutes catching sunset light, soft strings humming beneath curated laughter. The LED screen behind the altar flickered gently with lakeside engagement photos, every frame airbrushed into a fairy tale. I arrived early. Not from excitement. From strategy. At the check-in, the woman barely glanced up. Ronnie Maddox. I didn't bother correcting her. She skimmed the list. Your table 23. Last row. Far left corner. No champagne. No place card. Just a lone seat tucked near a column like an afterthought. I sat down and slipped the USB drive from my purse, fingers pressing into its cool metal surface. A pulse. A countdown. Celeste floated past, gown rippling, hair sculpted, smile rehearsed. She glanced sideways, voice sugar-coated. Don't wander. The camera might catch you. I smiled back, razor-thin. Then let it. The string quartet swelled. The MC stepped up, voice soft as silk. Ladies and gentlemen, our radiant bride invites you on a little trip down memory lane. Celeste took the mic with the ease of a woman who's never been told no. I want to share something personal, she purred, holding up an old photograph. 2 girls. 1 spotlight. 1 shadow. This used to be us, she said. But some people just disappear, don't they? She tore the photo in half. The crowd chuckled on cue. I didn't move. My grip on the USB stayed iron-tight. The MC smiled brightly. And now, a surprise video tribute from the bride's journey. The music dipped, then died. The LED screen crackled, then bloomed into focus. Text message. Carter. Can't wait till tonight. Wedding or not, you're still mine. The room froze. Nathan's face went slack. Eleanor's hand clenched around her glass. Celeste's spine stiffened under the spotlight, caught in the very aesthetic she worshipped. Next clip, a video. Celeste wrapped around Carter at her bachelorette party. Laughing. Kissing him. Clear, unedited. No mistaking it. People whispered. Phones lifted. A little girl near the aisle tugged her mom's sleeve. Why is the bride crying before the vows? The mother said nothing, just pulled her daughter away. A guest live streamed from the back. Y'all, this is not a wedding. This is a reckoning. Celeste screamed. Turn that off. I stood. No words. Just my eyes on hers, piercing through LED light like a scalpel. She lurched for the mic. This is fake. Edited. This is. I stepped forward.
Calm.
Final. You already tore up the photo, I said. I just showed what was behind it. Nathan didn't say a word. He removed his ring, set it down on the edge of the table, and walked out. Only the sound of his footsteps and Celeste's breath, shaky, shallow, filled the ballroom. The MC fumbled. The music never returned. Outside, the media stirred. A crew member whispered to Eleanor, We're trending. Globally. Gregory extended a handshake to a luxury brand partner. The man recoiled, shook his head, and walked away. Celeste collapsed into her chair. Her makeup smeared like melted oil paint, ruined and refusing to dry. I returned to my seat. Lyanna, watching from stage right, texted 2 words. Phase 1 done. I sipped my lemon water. It burned beautifully. Eleanor approached. She leaned in, whispered coolly, "That was a mistake. You've started a war." I met her eyes.
Calm.
Grounded. Good, I said. I came prepared. Just before the video began, I caught my own reflection on the darkened screen, blurred, peripheral. It reminded me of the time Celeste had used my photograph in her branding deck for a luxury candle collaboration. She hadn't even credited me. When I confronted her, she laughed. "It's just a photo, calm down. People care about the model, not the background." That sentence had stuck with me like dust in a cracked frame. Tonight, that same photo was about to open the show, digitally cleaned, recolored, and reattributed. But this time, the world would know who framed it. As the screen lit up, the ballroom dimmed by design. Lights around the perimeter pulsed low, synchronized with the swell of violin music. The wedding orchestra cut off mid-measure. Silence snapped into the air like a rubber band. Then came the first vibration, deliberate like a heartbeat beneath the floorboards. A low bass hum timed with each transition. When Carter's message appeared, the lighting tech I'd bribed triggered a narrow spotlight that caught Celeste square in the face. Pale, frozen, every micro-expression amplified. Her mascara shimmered under the LED glare like a lie exposed. In the video clip of the bachelorette party, we added an audio swell, a subtle lift in the ambient noise. Wine glasses, flirtatious laughter, the sticky silence of too much truth in too little space. Each sound was calibrated. And when Nathan stood, the music didn't resume. All you heard was the soft shuffle of his shoes and Celeste's breath hitching like a skipped track. The room didn't fall apart with screams. It folded in on itself, elegantly, precisely, like a house of cards caught in a gust of clarity. I didn't expect the text from Lyanna to arrive so soon. Phase 2 ready. 2 hours after the wedding imploded, the Maddox PR machine had already begun damage control, media silence requests, polite denials, curated social posts. But they hadn't accounted for the fact that I didn't just come with one USB. I came with a file and history. While the world was still reeling from the wedding scandal, I was at my studio. I slid open the bottom drawer of my desk, reached behind a stack of matte prints, and pulled out a red leather file folder. Faded.
Thick.
Full of things no one ever thought I'd keep. Contracts. Photo timestamps. Emails. A signed print release Celeste once forged, claiming authorship on an image I took of her for an early portfolio. The handwriting was shaky. She thought I'd never find it, but I did. And I kept it. That night, the city buzzed online with hashtags. Hashtag the torn photo. Hashtag Celeste exposed. But it was just the beginning. I opened the folder and flipped to a particular page, one marked with a paperclip and a note from my former gallery agent. "This is the deal Gregory killed." The gallery had offered me a solo show in Berlin, full sponsorship with placement in their spring catalog. Then Gregory called them, on behalf of the Maddox Foundation, and suddenly I was emotionally unreliable, not brand safe. I'd lost that exhibit. I'd lost months. But now I had the email, the voicemail, and most importantly, I had the motive. I dialed Lyanna. "Tomorrow," I said. "We move to press." She didn't ask if I was sure. She only asked, "Do you want it quiet or loud?" I smiled. Louder than Charleston. By morning, Lyanna had already booked a meeting room at a boutique hotel in Manhattan, neutral ground, tasteful lighting, secure audio feeds. We invited 3 journalists, one from The Atlantic, one from a rising indie media outlet, and one from a media law podcast that specialized in corporate ethics. We didn't need noise. We needed credibility. And I came with both. I arrived early. Hair tied back, black blazer, no makeup. Just facts. The red file sat centered on the table. When the reporters arrived, they looked skeptical, but curious. Celeste was still trending. But gossip only lasts until evidence shows up. I handed over the folder in silence. They flipped through it slowly. Then again slower. I watched their faces shift. Lines of confusion melted into recognition. Nods followed. Raised eyebrows. One gasped when they found the forged signature, the matching metadata. "This is extensive," the woman from The Atlantic said. "And it's all real," I replied. "But why now?" the podcaster asked. "Because you can only pretend to be invisible for so long," I said. "Eventually, you become the mirror." Lina slid a second folder across the table, backup sources, names, NDAs we had already checked. We'd done our homework. Every page had teeth. The man from IndieWire leaned in. "Do you want a full exposé? Or serialized segments?" "All of it," I said, layered, with receipts. We left the room 45 minutes later. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt precise. Outside the hotel, the air was sharp, a little too bright. I walked to the edge of the sidewalk, watching taxis blur past like fragments. My phone buzzed. It was a private number. I answered. "Rowan Maddox." "Yes. This is Rhea Park. You don't know me, but I worked under your father at the foundation in 2017. I saw what he did to your exhibition slot. I have documents. Would you be willing to talk?" I froze for half a beat. Then, "I'm listening." That afternoon, in a corner booth of a dim cafe, Rhea handed me a flash drive. Inside, full audio recordings of Gregory discussing strategy to ensure the secondary daughter remained off any corporate materials. "She's reactive," he said on the file. "She feels too much. That makes her easy to silence." I played the clip 3 times that night. Not because I needed to believe it, but because I wanted to feel exactly what it meant. Have you ever realized that your own family didn't just ignore you? They strategically removed you? That moment you see the erasure was never accidental. If you've ever felt deleted instead of defended, drop a comment number 7 below. Let's see what I do with that truth. Then I sent it to the same 3 journalists from earlier. Phase 2 wasn't revenge. It was reclamation. The next day, a feature article went live. Title: "Behind the Brand, the Maddox Machine and the Sister It Tried to Erase." Within an hour, it hit trending. Within 3, Celeste's skincare partner pulled their campaign. By evening, Gregory was issued an internal audit at the foundation. The headline on page 6 read, "Wedding Wreck was just the beginning." But for me, the real shift came quietly. A message from a photography professor in Prague. "We just used your Venice series in our graduate seminar. Your lens work is extraordinary. Thank you for reclaiming your space." I stared at that message for a long time. Celeste once said I was the background. But now, the background had come into focus, sharp, vivid, impossible to crop out. 3 days after the exposé went live, my phone buzzed with a name I hadn't seen in months. Eleanor Maddox. I let it ring. Then again. Then again. By the 4th time, I answered, not to reconnect. To witness the sound of collapse. "Rowan," she began, her voice lacquered with calm, but brittle at the edges. "We'd like to speak. Face to face." "We." She meant the Maddoxes. Gregory, Celeste, herself. "You've made your point," she continued. But some things shouldn't be handled through strangers and press releases. I said nothing. We'll be at the house on Thursday. Just the family. Noon. She hung up without waiting for a yes. The Maddox estate in upstate New York hadn't changed. Manicured hedges, white stone columns, the stained glass window above the foyer still cracked from a childhood baseball. I walked in alone, no Lina, no witnesses, only a small voice recorder in my pocket. Inside they waited. Eleanor by the fireplace. Gregory in the leather chair. Celeste standing, perfect posture, but her eyes darted like static. No greetings. No preamble. Gregory folded his hands. You've embarrassed this family. You've crossed legal and ethical lines. I tilted my head. Would you like to see the forged copyright release again? Or maybe hear your foundation audio, uncut? He blinked, but didn't back down. Eleanor stepped forward. You made your statement. What more do you want? I let the silence stretch. Then, I want the truth on record. I want full retraction of every false credit Celeste ever took. I want the gallery slot reinstated. And I want a public apology. Celeste laughed, sharp, nervous. You think this is activism? You're just bitter. No, I said. I'm just done shrinking. Gregory stood. You're not thinking clearly. This could ruin your name too. The Maddox name is on your degree. Your career. I met his eyes. Then maybe I'll burn the name too. The room fell quiet. Celeste moved first, pacing toward the window. This is exhausting, she muttered. You've always made everything about you. No, I said. You just never let it be about me at all. Eleanor pressed her palms together. You're tearing this family apart. It was already torn, I replied. I just stopped taping it back together. Gregory's voice turned steel. You release anything else, we will sue. For defamation. For breach of legacy agreements. I took out my phone and tapped play. A short clip played aloud. Gregory's voice crisp. She's reactive. She feels too much. That makes her easy to silence. His eyes narrowed. Where did you get that? A friend from your own staff. Turns out not everyone is as loyal as you thought. Celeste spun toward me. Do you want me destroyed? Is that what this is? I looked at her for a long time. I want to never have to explain myself to you again. She scoffed. You're dramatic. And you're edited. Every piece of you is built on borrowed light. The words hung between us like smoke. Then, a sudden burst, Gregory slamming his fist on the oak table. Enough! He turned to Eleanor. Tell her what we sacrificed. Eleanor's voice dropped. We covered for your breakdowns, your failed shows. We protected you from public collapse. No, I said quietly. You hid me, and worse, you repackaged me as Celeste's aesthetic. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was dense, truth hanging like humidity before a storm. I pulled out a final envelope. This is from the Berlin Gallery. They're offering me the slot again, but they want a joint apology from the Maddox Foundation. Gregory laughed once, dry and incredulous. You'll get nothing. I nodded. Then we're done. I stood, calm. My heels echoed on the hardwood as I crossed the room. Before I reached the door, Eleanor called after me. What happens next? I turned, one hand on the doorknob. That depends on how quiet you want the rest of your empire to fall. When I left the estate, the sky was darkening, clouds bruised with evening. I got in the car, locked the doors, and let the shaking happen. Only then, only briefly. Back at my apartment, Lina had left a note. The archive is scheduled. Video edit complete. I opened my laptop. The screen flickered to life. Celeste's stolen campaigns. Gregory's recorded meetings. A timeline from 2015 to now. Phase 3 was digital.
Public.
Sharp. That night, I uploaded the first video to an anonymous leak site. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was history, finally documented by the one they tried to delete. I'm not here to ruin the wedding. I'm here to show what it was built on. The words rang in my head like a tuning fork as I stepped through the backstage door of St. Aurelius Hall. The venue was already humming with quiet orchestral tests, champagne flutes clinking faintly in the main chamber beyond. But here, behind the curtains, everything was wires and tension. I carried no invitation, no badge. Just a labeled USB, steady hands, and a plan too precise to be derailed. Name? A young tech guy asked as I approached the control table. Rowan Maddox, I said smoothly. I'm here with the bride's media team, uploading the final slideshow for the family segment. He barely glanced up, gestured toward the primary laptop. Drop it in the playlist. Just match the file naming format. I plugged in the USB. The file name blinked onto the screen. Celeste_wedding_memories_final, MP4.
Perfect.
No one questioned it. I adjusted the timestamp to Q at exactly 8:24 p.m., then locked the file with a one-time encryption key. This the wedding video? The tech guy asked with a smirk, watching the progress bar fill. Looks intense. I gave him a faint smile. You could say that. Once it was done, I stepped away, found an empty seat near the edge of the stage. I ran one last test. Audio sync, resolution, failover system. The volume bar rose with my own voice in the mic. This is a sound check for truth. A pulse beat behind the screen, a clock ticking toward ignition. I leaned back.
Calm.
Ready. At 7:53 p.m., Eleanor appeared. She moved like fog, silent, deliberate, draped in silver-gray silk. Her heels didn't make a sound. Her hand landed gently on my shoulder, but her grip was all steel. You're not seriously thinking about making a scene, are you? I didn't look at her. My eyes stayed on the screen. No, I said evenly. I'm thinking of telling the truth. Her voice dropped an octave. If you say or show anything tonight, your name will disappear from every gallery, every grant list, every shortlist in this country. Again. I turned slowly, finally meeting her gaze. For the first time, I saw something flicker behind her eyes. Not anger, uncertainty. I spoke softly. Do it. But when you do, remember, you're not fighting your daughter. You're fighting the camera. Eleanor held my gaze for a few more seconds, then turned away sharply. Her heels tapped out a coded warning across the marble floor as she disappeared behind a side curtain. Have you ever been forced to choose between keeping the peace and keeping your truth? That quiet war where silence feels like betrayal, but speaking up might cost everything. If you've ever stood at that edge, comment number 9 below. Because I just stepped over it. I pulled out my phone. A single message to Lionel. Q at 8:24 p.m. No matter what happens, run it. She replied within seconds. Crowds filling up. They won't know what hit them. In the control room, the mood began to shift. Technicians began prepping for the rehearsal cycle, lighting presets, transitions, cue logs. I drifted among them like a shadow, unseen but entirely present. 7:58 p.m. The lights shifted subtly from fluorescent cold to warm theatrical amber. Red gold tones licked the corners of the backstage curtains, like fire sneaking under a doorframe. I checked the cue file again.
Locked.
Labeled perfectly. Buried between harmless segments labeled First Dance and Family Toasts. No one had noticed. Then came the tug of panic. Eleanor returned, this time with a senior AV consultant. Check every file marked for segment C, she said tightly, especially anything inserted within the last 48 hours. The man typed commands into the control terminal. File, Celeste_wedding_memories_final, MP4.
Click.
A password prompt blinked. Files encrypted, he said. We'll need the original upload. Eleanor spun toward me. Open it. I didn't move. You'll see it at 8:24. Her lips tightened. This is your last warning. I tilted my head slightly. You already gave the last one. I stepped away before she could respond, melting back into the shadows of the curtain wing. My heart wasn't racing. Not anymore. There was a strange kind of serenity in inevitability. At 8:16 p.m., the guests began to file in. Champagne, laughter, glittering gowns. Some took selfies near the floral arch. Others settled into rows of velvet seats, admiring the custom-engraved programs and the soft piano cover of Clair de Lune trickling through the speakers. Backstage, the countdown had begun. I took my seat in the third row, just beneath the center lighting rig. 1 minute before go time, I felt a presence at my shoulder. Celeste.
She didn't sit.
Didn't look down. As she passed me in the narrow aisle, she muttered just loud enough. You wouldn't dare. I didn't flinch. Then watch me. And I leaned back, folding my hands. 8:24 p.m. The lights dimmed. The projector clicked to life. And the truth took the stage. They fed me scraps and called it love. Tonight, I'm serving the truth. 8:24 p.m. The lights dimmed like a breath being held. Every chandelier blinked into stillness. A hush rippled across the ballroom. Murmurs fading, heads turning, glasses paused midair. The LED screen bloomed to life. It didn't start with a logo or music. It began with a photograph, soft lighting, vintage grain. A girl in white on Venice boardwalk, laughing over her shoulder. It was my shot. Not Celeste's brand photo. Not her campaign.
Mine.
The one I gave her when I still thought sisters shared everything. When I believed being invisible meant I mattered somewhere, even if only off frame. A caption faded in under the image. Photograph by Rowan Maddox. And then, black screen. A single text message appeared, centered and cold. Carter, can't wait till tonight. Wedding or not, you're still mine.
Time-stamped.
Dated.
Real.
The silence in the ballroom ruptured. Nathan froze, hand mid-clap. His head turned slowly toward Celeste, who sat smiling, frozen, eyes wide as if willing the screen to go dark. It didn't. Another clip replaced it. Grainy, nighttime footage. A rooftop bar. Laughter. Then Celeste, lip-locked with Carter, hand curled around the back of his neck, dress unmistakably white.
People gasped.
One man choked on his champagne. Someone whispered, Jesus Christ, just loud enough. The screen flicked again. A voicemail. Eleanor's voice. We'll reschedule your show, darling. Celeste needs the spotlight this season. Family first. Then Gregory in a boardroom. She's not commercially viable. Emotional. Difficult. Not the image we want aligned with our grants. A montage rolled. Celeste posing beside murals I painted, products I shot, all credited to her. Then email receipts, dates matching launch events, forged author lines. And finally, the seating chart. Table 23, no name. One chair. A few guests stood up. The screen dimmed, and my voice came in, low and calm. They called it love. I call it convenience. And tonight, you'll call it exposed. There was no applause. No laughter. Only stillness. The kind that follows detonations. Nathan stood slowly. His jaw clenched, his fingers fumbling at the ring on his left hand. It caught the light, then slid off. A quiet, almost imperceptible sound as it clinked against the edge of his plate. Celeste reached for him. "Nathan, please. It's not what it looks like." He didn't look at her. "Did you ever love me?" he asked, voice frayed. She hesitated. I did. I do." Nathan nodded once, but there was no forgiveness in it. Only finality. He turned, walked out of the ballroom. No fanfare. No farewell. Just footsteps on marble that sounded like verdicts. Eleanor rose. "This is disgraceful," she hissed. She turned toward the AV technician. "Shut it down." "I can't," he muttered. The files hard-locked and mirrored to the cloud. Celeste swayed slightly in her seat. Her perfect makeup smudged beneath her eyes. Not from tears. From exposure. Gregory didn't move. He stared at the screen, the final frames still frozen. Rowan Maddox, photographer. Rowan Maddox, truth. Then I stood. Not for applause. Not for vengeance. For clarity. I walked slowly to the stage, heels measured, breath even. No one stopped me. They just parted like the truth itself was making its own aisle. At the mic, I didn't smile. "You dressed me in silence for years," I said. "But your silence fed my clarity. So here it is, your mirror. And unlike your lies, this doesn't smudge." A single clap rang out. Then another. Then more. Not wild. Not theatrical. But real. Behind me, a tech whispered into his headset. "We're trending. Globally." Someone live streaming from their phone laughed. "This isn't a wedding. This is a reckoning." As the final frame froze on the screen, my name in bold, the truth unfiltered, another image faded in, quiet but unmistakable. A still shot from years ago. The Venice boardwalk. Celeste in white, backlit by golden hour, laughing into the breeze. The same image she once called just something from Etsy when I gave it to her framed, hand-signed. Now that very image led the avalanche that tore down her mask. My voice returned, calm but louder. "You dismissed the background, but I remembered." A ripple of unease passed through the crowd. Phones lifted. Screens began to glow. Whispers turned to murmurs. Then voices. "Oh my God, this was all fake? Wait, is that her kissing Carter?" From across the ballroom, I caught sight of a media rep pacing near the doors. His phone to his ear, face flushed. Seconds later, Celeste's skincare brand logo on the LED signage flickered, then vanished. Lina's text buzzed on my phone. 2 sponsors just pulled. PR reps out front trying to stop the live feed. Too late. A technician near the AV booth whispered, "We're trending. Hashtag Maddox meltdown is climbing fast." Celeste crumbled back into her seat, dress now wrinkled and heavy. Eleanor reached for her arm but froze halfway, her mask of control slipping. At that moment, Celeste looked up at me. Tears threatened. Voice cracked. "What did you do to me?" I didn't look down. Just whispered, "I stopped letting you do it to me." And that was the last sentence before I turned away, heels clicking like punctuation, the crowd parting once more. Not for a bride this time, but for truth. In the far corner, a guest live streaming muttered into their mic, "This ain't a wedding, this is reckoning." Behind them, someone tried to play light music to fill the silence. But no sound matched the weight of collapse. They erased me from their pictures. So I built my own gallery. The floor was concrete, cool and unfinished. The walls, blank white, matte, punctuated only by frames of black and white photographs. I stood in the center of it all, the quiet hum of low piano music winding around the space like breath. The lighting was soft, deliberately so, This wasn't a spotlight. It was a space for presence, not performance. The gallery in Brooklyn wasn't big. But tonight, it didn't need to be. The room was full. Artists, curators, photographers, and collectors. Not gawking. Not recording. Just looking. Looking at me. Looking at what I chose to frame. A woman with salt gray hair leaned toward me, her voice gentle. "Why framed by me?" she asked. I smiled, turned slightly, and pointed to the largest print hanging at the far end of the room. A childhood photo, once cropped, once forgotten. In the original, Celeste had been centered, in a white ballet tutu, arms posed. I'd been next to her, off focus, half-cropped, smiling too wide. Now, the print was full frame. No edits. Just truth. Because for years, I said, they chose what to crop. Now I choose what to show. She nodded slowly, then walked away to view the next piece. I didn't follow. I didn't need to. Caleb passed by with a tray of sparkling water. "Rowan," he murmured, "the press corner is clear." Lina made sure no one brought questions. I nodded, watching as Lina gave me a wink from the reception desk. Calm, collected, unshakable. At 8:53 p.m., I spotted her. Celeste, standing quietly near the storage hallway, sleeves rolled, hair tied back, no makeup. She held a cloth in one hand, wiping smudges off a glass frame. She wasn't hiding, but she wasn't asking to be seen either. I approached slowly, my heels soft against the gallery floor. "Early again?" I said. She looked up, startled, but didn't flinch. I just needed somewhere real. I handed her a clean microfiber cloth. Then start by straightening that one. She followed my gesture to a frame hanging askew on the left wall. "But don't expect to be in it," I added. Celeste gave a single nod. "I'm not here to be seen. Just to earn my way." We didn't say more. And we didn't need to. Later that night, after most guests had left, the gallery grew quiet again. The only sounds were the soft steps of Lina locking the side entrance and Caleb adjusting a misaligned spotlight. The smell of varnish lingered faintly in the air. I walked to the back office to grab my coat. On the desk, the old laptop blinked with a new email. Subject: National Art Foundation Exhibition Invitation. Dear Ms. Maddox, we've followed your latest exhibition with great interest. We would like to feature your series, Framed by Me, as the lead artist in our upcoming nationwide tour. Your perspective is honest, transformative, and necessary. Please find the formal invite and grant details attached. Warmly, Margaret Ennis, Director, National Art Foundation. I didn't cry. I didn't grin. I simply opened a reply window, attached the high-resolution files, and typed. Attached, full-resolution files. And yes, all framed by me.
Click. Send.
Behind me, Celeste had entered quietly. She had been dusting one of the last corners of the gallery. Her eyes scanned the screen, reading the email I had just sent. She didn't speak. She just stood there. And I could feel it, the realization sinking in. That for the first time in our lives, I wasn't behind her. I was the frame. She was the silence. She placed the cloth back on the counter and walked out without a word. Not out of shame. Not in defeat. Just truth. On the rooftop, the city stretched below, lights shimmering, soft and alive. Caleb joined me with a mug of tea in hand. "So," he asked, sipping, "what's your next project?" I didn't answer right away. The wind shifted, gentle across my collar. "Portraits of rebirth," I said finally. "Not from ashes. From clarity." We stood there a while, no more words needed. Back inside, the gallery lights dimmed into evening mode. I walked once more along the central line of photographs, faces of working-class women, mothers, dancers, bakers, fighters. Not famous,
but seen.
And finally, the last photo, the one I used to hate. The ballet recital. Age 10. Celeste center stage. I was blurred, off to the edge, cropped in every print they ever gave out.
Now
I stood full frame. Posture proud. Smile soft. Centered not because I demanded it, but because I built the wall myself and hung the image. Below the frame, in handwritten ink.
Truth.
Framed by me. My phone buzzed. A voicemail. I tapped play. It was my mother. "I know you don't owe us anything," she said, her voice aged and cautious. "But maybe one day you'll forgive. Not for me. For you." I listened to the silence that followed. I didn't delete it. I didn't call back. I just stood there in my gallery. And for once, I wasn't waiting to be seen. I already was. I no longer wait to be seen. I stand in the gallery I built, surrounded by frames that carry truth, not just images. What they tried to erase became the foundation of everything I chose to show. Here's what I've learned. When you stop shrinking to fit their version of love, you start expanding into your own dignity. Justice doesn't always roar, sometimes. It arrives quietly, but it never misses. If you've ever been the background in someone else's story, I want to hear your voice. Drop a comment, tell me where you're watching from, or share the moment you chose yourself over silence. Let this space be your frame too. And if you're ready for more stories about reclaiming truth, hit subscribe, because this gallery is just getting started.